I'm going to do something totally new today. It's new territory for me. I'm going to do a collective balance, a real muscle testing session on camera, testing the energy or the current energy of the collective. I'm going to find out where it's blocked and identify what will restore it and bring it back into balance. I'm Vesna, I'm a kinesiologist, and for 35 years I've used muscle testing to find out what's out of balance in the body and find out exactly what corrects it. Your energy is part of the collective field, whether you know it or not. So this is an experiment, and if it showed up in your feed, it could relate to you as well, and it could be relevant on a very personal level. Here's how it works. You can use muscle testing to surrogate another's energy. This is how I do distance healing. So I'll test things like animals, babies, people that are immobilized, young people that really don't understand the concept of muscle testing. We can even test things like plants. Anything that has an energy field can be tested. I've found surrogate testing incredibly accurate, and you put the energies back into balance, then the person's symptoms disappear. Their natural energy can start to do the healing process and people start to get better. So I've done sessions over Zoom where we've been able to correct things like imbalances in structure, imbalance like a sore shoulder, for instance, where by the end of the balance the sore shoulder's gone and I have not laid a single hand on them. This is how the energy field works. So when you put things back into balance, what happens is that the natural energies then can take over and the business of healing can take place. So if this interests you, let's go. Seeing as we're doing a balance for the collective, and I don't know personally what the collective needs, I know what I want. I know what I would like to see in the world. I would like to see peace. I would like to see people getting along and working cooperatively. I would like to see a governance that isn't about dictatorship or forcing people to do what they don't want to do. I would like to see things along the lines of communities choosing for themselves. These are the things that I'd like to see. However, they may not be the things that are best for the collective. So just like I would then muscle test for somebody else, I'm going to test this goal up for the collective and see currently the energies of today, what is the goal that the collective is testing up for. So just a quick explanation of what muscle testing is. When I do self-testing or surrogate testing, I use this particular muscle here. So when you challenge that muscle, like so, and it weakens, it usually indicates that there's some kind of an imbalance in the field. Now, if anyone's interested, I do have an online muscle testing, self-muscle testing course that I've put together. I've made it super affordable because I think it's a skill that everybody needs. However, there is a science to it, and to make sure it's accurate, you do really need to know how it works, the mechanics of it, and also what's going to make your test accurate. Let's move on. I'm going to be using that muscle there, and I'm going to be challenging with that there. So let's have a look and see what the goal is for the collective. And this might apply to you too. Like, this might be something that really resonates with you. Believe it or not, what comes up today is to do with peace and relaxation. So what comes up is I allow my soul to relax and feel peace. So I allow my soul to relax and feel peace. Feels relaxing even just as you say it, doesn't it? Okay. So the next step in a balance is what we find out is we challenge that statement. And when we challenge the statement, what we get to see is whether that statement is something that is resonating in that current energy field, or whether it's out of resonance. So when I say I allow my soul to relax and feel peace, immediately we have a muscle that shows a weakness, which means in the field, this is not the truth at the moment. As we know, there's a lot of chaos going on, there's a lot of disruption. We're in the process of extreme renovation and evolution of a species. So this is what's kind of the side effects of what's happening in our field as a result of a whole species starting to awaken to who they really are. But it's interesting, for today's energies and for this week's energies, is I allow my soul to relax and feel peace. So now we get to the business of correction. We see that there is a water imbalance here. So kidney, I often think that kidney relates to past lives as well. So we could be looking at something that has happened in the lineage. Perhaps it's a pattern that's been expressing itself. So we look at it as a kidney imbalance. And just a quick story about a kidney imbalance that I saw once that literally came up in everybody's corrections. So back in 2004, I think it was, I noticed that a kidney imbalance was showing up for absolutely every person that came in. And this was happening for months. So it was very, very odd. I hadn't seen that before. And then in December of 2004, we had a series of earthquakes, I think it was, which created an enormous tsunami. And the tsunami was so devastating that I think the total was something along the lines of 230,000 souls were lost to that particular disaster. It was a very, very huge and tragic event. But the thing that was interesting was it was showing up in our collective energy. Every person was showing up this water imbalance. Now, the kidney is also the storehouse of fear. Now, the kidney is also an organ that can be affected by fear. So the vibration of fear will weaken the kidneys. So now we know what stops that goal from coming into fruition, and that's the imbalance in the water element. So that's how it works. The goal of allowing our soul to feel relaxed and at peace, we need to balance the kidney element, or we need to balance the water element. So we're going to test up to see what specifically that relates to. And if we look at the emotion, it comes up with life-giving. If that was coming up for someone in clinic, I would ask them, what does life-giving mean to you? What's life-giving in your life? And there are many different things that we can consider life-giving. Anything that enhances our life rather than takes away. So it can relate to food, it can relate to relationships that we're having, it can relate to thoughts, it can relate to many, many different things. The focus is on what is life-giving and what is life-diminishing. And that's what muscle testing also shows us. It shows us what enhances our life force and what diminishes our life force. Because it's kidney, I always like to test up where it lives in the past as well. Karma or a pattern or something that was playing out in our history. It comes up with 1,767 years ago. So we're looking at 2026 minus 1,667 years ago. We're coming up to 259 AD. When we go back into history of that time, and I've just quickly put into AI what was significant about that time, and it was very interesting. It was the time that the Roman Empire was fracturing, the Gallic Empire breaks away, Germanic invasions are repelled. So it was an empire at breaking point. So plague, external invasions, internal rebellion, political chaos, all hitting simultaneously. It's a fascinating year. So when we look at perhaps why that year has come up in the collective muscle test, we're looking at some karma, some patterns, unresolved. So it's something that was unresolved at that time. So let's have a look and see if we can just balance out what was unresolved at that time, might relate to the energies that are currently happening on our planet and also in our own lives as well. So when we test up what is going to correct that imbalance, it comes up with a holographic correction, which is how the kidney communicates to the stomach. Looking at that in my little book, so kidney to stomach, okay, the emotion is pushy. It comes up with the underlying attitude of being exploited and imposed upon. So this could be what the collective is working through at the moment. Feeling that energy of life, people, energies that are pushy, that are pushing you into places you don't really want to go. But the underlying attitude of being exploited and imposed upon, well, that makes a lot of sense in the global aspect. But also, how might it relate to your own life? Like, how might it be something that you are experiencing in your own reality? Because when you heal it in yourself, it also gets healed in the collective as well, because we're all part of this energy soup. So let me read the balancing affirmation and then we'll do a quick correction, then we'll finish it up. So it's about making the commitment to kindly, gently, lovingly and supportively follow my own course in life, create my own adventure, build physical vitality, and choose wisely when to serve others. So let's find out what the correction points are for that. And kidney 3 is the correction point. So what I'll do is I will put up the kidney 3 point on the screen so that you'll be able to hold those points. And I know where they are because they're on your ankles. So I'm holding those points now and really thinking about where I feel imposed upon right now in my own life and being okay to let it go. Being okay to not be resistant to it, but to understand that it's okay for me to follow my own wisdom. It's okay for me to breathe in that peace and relaxation that comes from not feeling like you have to succumb to the pushy nature of the outside world. Now, let's test to see how our statement comes up, our goal. So I allow my soul to relax and feel peace. And that's nice and strong. That feels quite not going anywhere. Whereas before, it was showing up with a weakness. So let's have a look as a collective as to how that changes in not only in our own lives, but in what we're seeing in the world and what we're seeing in the collective field. And what might happen with these, what I find usually happens with balances is that either the problem just goes away, it doesn't seem to come up in your field anymore, so you don't really feel imposed upon or pushy, or you might experience a greater intensity of that just for a very, very short time, and then it dissipates and integrates. So everybody's integration period is different. Globally, I don't know. This is why I'm doing this experimentation, to see how collectively this balance might play out, if at all. However, when we have a number of people putting intention into a field, generally it creates those changes. So if we look at those points that we spoke about today and just meditate into them for the week, let me know how you go. I'd love to hear your comments, whether this resonates. It'd be good to see what happens to the world over the next week, to see whether we get to see any of this coming up in the field, or whether we can relate to that, or whether there is more peace and relaxation coming into the soul, because that's what we really want to well, that's what the collective is actually looking for. I wish your soul peace and relaxation.